call the meeting to order at 5:35. First off, any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
No? Actually, I shouldn't take this off. In that case, we'll move.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. You made the corrections that Steve pointed out.
I didn't, because we didn't talk about where the meeting was gonna be.
Right, no, so neither of them needed to be.
Well, the other one was
Two
the
things.
agenda had the wrong
It
day.
was- which is-
Yeah, so we changed that
Oh,
yesterday. Yeah.
right, okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Duly noted. Second.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay,
We're on satellite delay.
there's no more discussion. All in
Take it
favor?
away, Bob.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, live from Rwanda.
All right, so new business, site access agreement, environmental compliance services for Water Street location.
Okay, so in the packet, there's a copy of this site access agreement. ECS has been contracted by Patricia Musell of Mountain Paws to do a environmental, they're gonna do a test well for petroleum for the gas station. So the boring is gonna happen on Water Street, which is our property, so they're asking us for permission to do the borings. They sent an agreement a couple weeks ago. I sent it to our attorney to look it over. There were a couple of things that he wanted added, and I highlighted the things that he was really concerned with, which was making sure that they were gonna get the permitting and have a traffic plan if they were gonna be in Route 5 and in that area, because my main concern was the trucks going in and out of there. And he also wanted a time frame. They can't give us the time frame because it's contingent on the permit approval, but it'll be 1 day of drilling. They'll give us 5 days notice, which then I can talk to Soundview Paper to let them know.
They're already at least aware or not?
They are aware of it because I sent them a copy
Yeah.
of this when I got it, and I talked to Brian, who is their environmental product, the plant guy down
Yeah.
there. And the other thing that was added, which is on the second page, is making sure that they don't, they're not bothering their operation for the whole day. That they
Soundview's
remain-
operation.
Soundviews,
Yeah.
yeah. So they added the scope of work shall be done in a manner not to interfere with the owners.
Right.
So I've put them in touch with him to talk to him about it.
What that means.
They were gonna send me a map today to show me exactly where it was. They didn't send one in the packet because they don't send it to they usually send it to the person that contracts them. And the woman that works for ECS was in an airport, it wouldn't let her send the attachment for some reason, I don't know. So I think I don't really have anything else that I'm concerned with.
And this, sorry, I can't, what is the name of our attorney now?
Larry Slason.
It's Larry.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually have somebody
and-
new working for them, and he went through this with me.
But Larry has,
Yeah.
somebody has reviewed this and
Yeah.
the additions were either their recommendation or,
Yeah, the original draft that came did not have the highlighted things in here,
Okay,
and I
so
highlighted
you
everything
guys-
to make sure that his concerns were addressed.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
That's what I
So-
thought I heard, I just wanted.
yeah,
I'll make a motion that we need a motion on it?
yeah. 'cause I
That we
need to sign it.
approve a site access agreement for Patricia Musell as,
ECS, it's with ECS,
Oh, with ECS,
Environmental
okay.
Compliance Services.
Oh, second that.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it's Briggs, who's buying, no, Briggs.
I have heard that.
That's,
I don't know that, I don't have anything official.
good.
All right. Computer replacement planning.
Okay.
Town hall.
So, there's a spreadsheet in your packet. It's 2 pages long. There are 3 different vendors that I contacted to have them come give us what I asked them for was come to our office, do an assessment, find out what we have, find out what you think, give us your recommendations, what would be the best options for us. And that's a server and new computers for, I think it would be everybody but me because mine's fairly new. And virus protection. So what I tried to do, reading some of this is like reading a foreign language that I don't know. So I did the best I could to compare side by side. So you'll see the first row is competitive computers, the second one is Vermont Digital, and then the third one is DOS Solutions. Basically giving me prices for server, switches for the server, backup information, and then what they did was they gave me a price for Laura. I'm getting Laura a laptop because then she can take minutes with it. So the laptop would be for Laura, and we would be choosing if we were going to go with Vermont Digital, the second option, which is a little cheaper. A docking station for that laptop because you have to connect to the network when you come.
The second option.
If you go into the Vermont Digital
Yeah.
column, you'll see they gave me 2 different prices for laptops. One's $935, the other one's $729.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why
The
those.
729 one is sufficient.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the desktop price, what monitor prices would be. We all need Microsoft Office, that's Word, Excel, that kind of stuff. What our security would be, any battery backups, a router, and then we'd like to get a second receipt printer in the office. That's for to try to get the treasurer's office to start using a receipt printer and entering things as people come in instead of waiting. And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, the all other. Okay, so let's go through. So what I did was to try to give the totals of what we were looking at is summarizing how many, to redo everything all at once. Summarizing what we would be getting. So we would need 1 laptop, 5 desktops, software we'd need 6 versions of Office, 5 monitors, and getting a total of what that would be per vendor, and then the all other includes all of the things that are the same, that are similar, like a server, switches, labor to do all of this. So the bottom line price, you can see, it's a little higher than what I said last time we were together. Competitive came in at almost 18,000. Theirs came in that high. They added a watch
How do they
guard.
have so much labor?
Yeah, it's like 26 hours worth of labor. It's
At $144.
at $144. It's a lot. Yeah, I don't. They had 10 hours of technical overview, 22 hours to get all the workstations and all of that set up in the server. And then prepping each PC, they had 6 hours. So more than that, 30, almost 40 hours.
And where is competitive?
They are out of Claremont, New Hampshire.
And where's Vermont Digital?
Vermont Digital is out of Rutland.
And have you worked with either of them before?
Well, we've purchased hardware from Competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They, on that end, they've been really easy to work with. The only reason I've worked with Competitive on hardware is because when I called Nimerick when I needed a new computer, that's who they recommend. That's who they buy their hardware from.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with Vermont Digital through working at Nimerick. Vermont Digital was one of the technical companies that would call the support line a lot, so they work with a lot of municipalities in the state. And then, of course, Daniel lives right here, so. So I think Competitive is, by looking at this, when I compare the two, when I compare the three of them side by side as far as what we're getting for equipment, Competitive and Vermont Digital are very close, as much as I can technically tell you what it all means. I mean, I tried to look some stuff up as far as like the gigahertz and the cores and all of that, you know. They're very close in what they're offering or what they are recommending.
And Daniel's is so much lower because he wants to use a significant amount of what's already there.
The server that he's showing is a new server. The computers that he's showing are refurbished.
Right.
And then yes, the monitors we would be using. But a lot of the things he hasn't. I don't know if we'd need a new switch for a new server. He didn't put that in the quote. He didn't put new. He didn't put Microsoft Office in there. Which, I mean, that's expensive, $249 a piece for each license. I asked him about Microsoft Office today. He sent me a link to a company we could buy it for $40, but when I looked in the fine print, municipalities don't qualify for this software. He didn't quote a new router. He put one in for me last week that's a used router that seems to be helping us with our internet connectivity issue. And he quoted less time for,
Yeah. All of them.
yeah. So I really don't want to buy a refurbished equipment. I really don't. I don't want to do that. I told him that when I asked for the quote. We buy refurbished equipment, and I don't know if the licensing is our licensing. It just hasn't been success. I mean, we've been limping along, and really, he's offering a $400 refurbished, and the new one's $679. I don't mean for $179. I'm not sure of that, but so then I looked at it. The biggest problem that I have right now is that I'm concerned about security. Both of the other two companies that I talked to and people that I've been talking to about computer stuff, I've been talking to Emily at the library. She's wanting to make sure we have the latest
Like antivirus type stuff?
antivirus, but what I was told, we have computers in our office that are running Microsoft XP, and our server right now is running like Windows 2003, something like that. Those two pieces of software are no longer being updated by Microsoft, so none of the security patches are being updated with whatever the new threats are. So what I'm being told is that XP, if people are using computers on the internet and they're using XP, there are viruses out there that can attach to that computer, and they've been wiping out servers. So at the very least, we've got to do something with the server, and we've got to get rid of the XP computers. I think right now, so it's Barbara, the public computer, Denise, Anita, Laura, and Kathleen. So there's 6 computers. I think 4 of them are running XP. So when I did this today, I changed the numbers to just do 4 instead of replacing 6. Yeah, it's a couple thousand dollars difference, but if we had to do that, we could do that. I just am concerned with that server issue and having something happen to our server. I mean, if we lost our server. I mean, there are backups, I'm told, that are being done. I don't really understand it. There's the server has 2, like mirrors each other. And I think that's the same way this works too. One thing with competitive, they have also something you can take out. So if the building burns, you have the data off-site.
Right.
right now, Laura and I are making sure we're backing up our stuff on the server all the time to a hard drive, an external hard drive that we take home. But it's a lot of money compared to what we've been. I mean, the biggest cost right now, obviously, is the server.
I can't remember what you initially thought.
I was thinking 10, between 8 and 10.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, and I don't know, are these like this Think server TD340 or whatever, are these the latest, so to speak? You know?
I have to say they might be because the two companies did the same thing, but
Well,
I
this
can't.
This has a 340. and
Right,
this
but
has
it's
a
still the
440.
same
Okay,
Think
right.
server, yeah.
Because it seems, I mean, considering how quickly technology advances now, it makes sense to buy right now
Yeah.
rather than skimping, because otherwise you'll just be
Yeah.
having to do this all over again sooner than later.
My plan is if this is something that can be approved now, of course, we have to talk about the money piece of it, that I think the server, I'll have to, and you have to look at the warranties on these too.
Right,
Like the
that's-
servers have 3-year warranties, Daniel's has 1.
Yeah.
What is that I think the server will last 7 to 10, you know, it's gonna last a while. And putting this whole, if we start fresh, putting it all on a replacement plan, so maybe we're replacing one computer every year.
Mhm.
You know, mine would probably be the first one to be replaced because I bought it 2 years ago. It's probably gonna last another 2 years,
Right.
hopefully. And then starting that cycle. Now, like the public computer, that's probably not gonna have to be replaced.
Yeah.
But once, they don't even, I mean, it's basically looking up
10
data.
10 years,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is connected to the server, so we have to be careful of that, but,
Yeah, for the same purposes, but,
Yeah,
but we've
but
we've gotten 10 years out of it, probably.
yeah, and it's not like it's used all the time, you know,
Right.
it's just not a highly, we're hoping to get it to be used more, they wanna start scanning land records and having that available, but that's one that's not gonna have to be replaced very often.
Well, is the, so is it much older than yours and your current one?
It's really difficult for me to tell because they've been so patched together, like if something happens,
Mhm.
Daniel will come in and he'll get it to work.
Mhm.
It's just, I don't know if he's installed something to upgrade it or
Right.
there's a piece of equipment from that's been put into, that's what's happened a lot is that, like if you look at Laura's computer sitting on the desk, you can tell it's been, so I don't know what's,
It's got duct tape on it?
no, just, yeah, it does, but,
Well, you know, because that's the other thing too, is that when yours gets replaced in 2 years, I could just replace the public one.
right,
Yeah, and then.
yeah, the public
then
one is
skip
a,
it. Yeah,
the other piece of this is we need to have online banking at some point. And that's the other I will not get online banking right now until we get something figured out with the security part of it. So, I don't know if you guys wanna take this and kind of look it over, I mean, we don't, obviously this isn't a decision that has to be made right now. We could talk about putting it in the budget for next year. I mean, I looked through the budget today. If it were my choice and I had all the money in the world to do something tonight, I would go with Vermont Digital.
Cynthia, wake up, wake up.
I would go with Vermont Digital. I think they're the middle of the road. They don't seem to me like they're trying to sell me something that I don't need. He was willing to give me the quote based on per unit price if we wanted to just piece things together, understanding that there's a budget process and
have they dealt with other municipalities? Did you?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I thought.
yeah. One thing the girls in the office are concerned about is that he's in Rutland.
Yeah,
So I talked to him about that today, and they have clients, I guess, all over the place, but they do a lot of stuff remotely. So you
Yeah,
call
sure.
them, and
They
they use a log meeting.
basically they can,
Yeah. He said if the computer completely crashes and something happens, that's different. And he said, I'll be down here either that day or the next day.
yeah.
So,
No, the reality is Rutland is not that far.
no. So that would be my choice. You know, we looked through the budget today. One of the things that we have places I could, you know, rob Peter to pay Paul in the budget. One of them is the,
Reallocation of funds.
one place is the, you know, we budgeted money to do the carpets, and I don't think that's gonna get done this year. It's just, I mean, there's $15,000 in the budget that we were going to transfer to capital reserve, as part of our regular yearly kind of funding to capital reserve. We could use some of that. A little bit could come from the water fund. We have to replace Laura's no matter what, because the software and the meter reader stuff, we can't buy that until she gets new equipment, because the
Right.
software won't go onto the computer she has. So in just looking through the budget today, we found about most of it came from that town hall maintenance for the floors. We found about $8,000 between that. There was a sidewalk maintenance line item of $1,000. That was for maintenance of the equipment, the old equipment we had. We just kept budgeting it, we don't use that. We don't use the custodial money at the town hall. Laura does that stuff during the day. So that was like 500. So we kind of looked around.
I'm blanking on the fund that, not White Whitney, but the other one. that
Edwall?
is Edwall. What about Edwall?
There's
No,
not a lot of money in
there
there.
isn't, okay.
What we're getting every year from that is just about covering our allocations, like to the library and to the town.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we used to usually have a little extra from that, but
Yeah.
that was
I think
before
we've-
2008.
Right, I think we've,
Yeah.
I mean, the 15,
Cash.
we have $106,000 in the capital fund. 6,000 of it is going back towards the general fund budget
I'm
this
sorry,
year.
what was that figure?
The 106,000.
Sorry.
6,000 of it is going back to the general fund this year to cover the shed they're gonna build at the town garage. So the 15,000 that we've allocated to put in there this year, we could use that money. That could be the reallocation. But I get it, it's a lot of money. I just don't know.
Or if you take those monies that you just talked about and then,
And then a little
and
bit.
then take some of that.
Yeah.
from that,
Yeah, that's another way to do it.
might make sense.
Yeah. So I think we could squeeze it out of this budget. We'd have to, you know, I looked at my, our operating supplies line. We would have to kind of, you know, skimp a little bit. I think there's like $1,500 in there. We need to at least save 500 to 1,000 from that. I would take money from my training budget just to get this done. So I don't, if you guys want to take it, and we can talk about it next time, so you can kind of look through it. I know it's a lot of information on one sheet of paper with a lot of numbers.
Are you confident that this is out of my
Yeah, it is a little,
realm?
yeah, I know.
I mean, are you confident that you've been presented with what you want? I mean, I guess my question is, are you comfortable that you're buying, I mean, I get the sense that
Yeah.
you feel they've been straightforward with you.
Yeah,
but
I think
are
all
you
of them
comfortable
actually
that this is
have, yeah.
the right thing to
Yeah.
do, kind of thing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think all of them have been very, they've answered all my questions. They've all been very, you know, forthcoming with what they think we need. Because I really didn't, when I called them, I'm like, I need to know what we need. Because I don't, like you, I don't,
Right,
you know.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know enough,
Right.
but,
No, I mean, I think it's unfortunate not to feel that Daniel is the right bid. A, because it's a whole lot less money, and B, because he's right here and we'd like to have Daniel. But I know that you have been frustrated with the equipment that you've had, and his approach is one that's not easy for you to feel like you can be fully functional with, as far as knowing your equipment is gonna do what you want it to all the time. So
And his approach is, and him and I had the conversation a couple weeks ago, his approach is very old school.
Right.
And I told him, I'm not knocking that that's the way you do things, and I think that it works for some of your
People
clients,
who-
and it works
who
for
it makes
people,
sense for.
and,
Yeah.
But you needed more
but
up to
the,
date.
but I need to be able to call somebody and say, okay, what is it, when I talked to these two, they really seemed like they knew like what the latest issues are for people. And I just don't know that Daniel's, I don't know that he's up on all of that. I think he would admit that he's not. I think he gets frustrated with the fact that, and he's probably right. Microsoft creates an environment where you have to buy the next
Yeah.
thing in order to,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
do, and that's frustrating for him, and I get that.
Yeah.
But when we're working with everybody else that's keeping up with it, it's really hard for us to do our work. When Laura has to do a workaround to open a document because we don't have the right software to open the document from the person sending it, it just sucks up time, and the frustration is just, I talked to Emily at the library about it the other day because she knows a lot more about this stuff than I do, and she said, Cynthia, you need to be able to come to work and have the computers not be on your mind as something that's, it
Right.
should just be a tool
Preventing
that
you
works.
from-
Right.
Yeah.
And what we've had has gotten us by, there's no doubt about it. And, we've had some problems recently, and Daniel has solved them, but it's just not, it's not the I spend a lot of time talking about computers and trying to figure out how to get something to work. I think the biggest frustration we had was the internet. And I think we've solved that. It was a router issue. But I'm still sitting with a used router on my desk that it may not last till, I don't know.
Okay. And so did you go through this stuff with Emily?
I didn't, no. No, she's not, I talked to her about it tonight and told her, because she's wondering, she wants to be able to enter her stuff into cash receipts instead of her enter it and then bring it to us. So part of this process would be to get her to be able to remote in and make sure everything's secure. So that's one of her big concerns, and her other concern is being able to call. She's like me. I know enough to get myself in a little bit of trouble, and so she really wants somebody that she can call on to that can do her tech stuff that she's comfortable with. And right now the fire station they use somebody else. I don't even know who they're using at this point right now to go in. They've done all their networking, and I'd like it to be the same, everybody to be able to use the same person. So that's where we're at. It did come in higher than.
Yeah, I mean,
Competitives. I even asked Competitive about this. They put this $1,500 WatchGuard security bundle, and he said it's a firewall. And I said, I think that might be a little overkill for us. Do you have another option? And he said, I wouldn't want to put it in without anything else. I'm like, okay. So I asked Vermont Digital about it, and he said the Netgear, the router, has a firewall on it. It's $289. He said he's put in, I guess it's called Barracuda, or I don't know what the other kind of security bundle firewall thing is. It's like $1,500. He said, but you guys don't, it's overkill for what you need. So, I like the guy. The guy at Competitive is very, I can understand him. He's very easy to work with. The $18,000 is craziness.
it's a huge difference between all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to think too, just as some other people I can.
if you have
Like
somebody.
my brother's
that
kind
can-
of tech savvy, and
That would be great if
Just ask
somebody
him,
else
send it
could
to
look
him,
at it.
and
say,
Okay.
hey, what do you think of
Yeah.
these particular types of equipment?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I want this to be a decision that everybody feels really comfortable with. Something needs to be done not, I don't wanna say quickly,
Mhm.
because I don't wanna be like a drama queen about it, but I really am
Mhm.
worried about the security issue.
Right.
I wasn't aware that XP was a security issue or that our server software was a security issue until I started talking to
Now,
everybody.
I don't know whether this makes sense, but Laura's computer has been an issue for quite a while.
Yeah.
Does it make any sense to go ahead and get Laura that laptop?
Yeah, we
Um,
probably could,
And,
yeah,
and, you know, because we should just have that not be a
Yeah.
problem anymore.
yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I would say, you know, that's great to look this over. I don't know anybody who I feel would, actually, I do know somebody. Actually, I know somebody else.
I would
could
love
run-
to
I
have
could run
somebody
it- I
look
could
at
run
it
this
that
up. I could run
says-
this by somebody else too. I know
Yeah,
someone
okay,
has
that would be,
a good
I'd love to
person
have
for
somebody
it.
else look at it, that's, and they may even say, I don't understand why she put this with this,
Right.
and,
That's
yeah.
the thing, yeah.
Because looking through it, I mean, they were all presented in a different way, and it was like, oh my god, I don't even know what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
no,
So,
I know a good person to do that, actually. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought of it, but,
I wonder if Don,
so, what's
I
that?
wonder if Don, is he pretty?
He probably would know, but there's a guy they get in whose name I'm blanking on, but there's a guy who comes in who he might be able to look at it too.
okay,
But Don might be able
He
to,
might- he
I
might
don't
know
know.
this stuff. I don't know.
But I guess I would say, go ahead and get Laura's computer.
okay, and then if you wanna just table this till the next meeting, then we can do that. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and
That
get
makes
Laura's,
sense to everybody?
Yeah, no, I think, yeah. And it's not, you don't get better deals by, like, in other words, are we getting a better deal on Laura's laptop if we buy the whole package?
Yeah, but if you, but I would say,
Well,
I would say, why don't you go ahead and get it from,
Vermont Digital.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going
Mhm.
to, cause his is the cheaper one anyways.
And just,
And he was giving it as a per unit price.
Okay.
It wasn't a package price with his.
Okay, gotcha, so you can.
So I'm
pick and
sure that,
choose,
yeah,
right, yeah. And there's no residual value in any of the old equipment, I imagine, these days. It's probably,
look nice in your basement.
these days, I don't think there's any, yeah.
I guess I would just, you think the $729 one is, I mean,
I asked
if
him-
we're ultimately gonna spend, you know,
right, but I asked him I called him and I said, okay, what is the difference between these two computers that makes that price so different? And he said the $935 one has on the bottom of it a port that you click into this docking station. So like when I get to work, I have a docking station
Right.
that my computer clicks into it and I'm automatically connected to
connected to the
everything.
whole thing.
That's the only difference between those two computers.
And otherwise, what, she has to plug
It's a
in?
plug-in, but she's not gonna take her computer home like I do.
Right.
So the only time, so I talked to her about it today, I said, what he told me is the difference between the two was a convenience thing.
Mhm.
And she said, the only place I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna pick it up and carry it in to take minutes and bring it
So,
back.
once,
Yeah. So he said if the convenience thing is not an issue, then go with the other one is perfectly fine as far as functionality and what she needs to do. So. So I'll go ahead and get hers. And then we can table this and you guys can check with some
Mhm.
people and see what they think.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, Hickory Ridge Road Bridge Project.
So I sent out an RFP about a month ago for the engineering and planning portion.
sorry to interrupt. Do we have a?
6:30.
6:30, okay.
For the engineering, design and planning services for the bridge project up on Hickory Ridge, really, we call it a culvert.
Mhm.
We received 6 bids, which was good. Huge difference in price on some of them. So the summary of it I put on the front page. I read through all the proposals. Two of the firms suggested that we do a planning study first to get cost estimates because they were concerned that our estimate is too low and we won't be able to complete the project with the funds that we have. There were other variations. I was having a hard time as I was going through it, kind of comparing the two.
Remind me what our overall budget we think is
It's-
gonna be? It's
The grant application ended up being like 208 or something like
yeah,
that.
okay.
So all of the firms were qualified, all of them have done projects. Everybody completed their proposals on time. So trying to compare them that way was really, as far as qualifications and jobs that they've done, they've all done this work. Two of the companies mentioned that they came out to the site and really looked at the location. It was Holden and then, three of them, Holden, Du Bois and King, and Dufresne Group. I ended up opening the cost proposals after I looked at everything because I really was trying to just put in a column like comparison, and the cost proposals really had it broken down easier. Brian reviewed all the proposals as well. After comparing everything, so if you look at the spreadsheet, you can see that they're all going to prepare drawings. They will all give us a cost estimate, except for DeWolf did not say that in their proposal that I could find, so I'm assuming they were going to, but I put no because I couldn't find it. They will all submit the drawings and specs to the appropriate, V-Trans, us, the appropriate agencies. They all said they're going to do a topographic survey. I could not find one in Holden's. Now, these are the proposals, so this is, it wasn't that I didn't want to find it, it's
Lengthy.
lengthy. They're all going to have to do borings to test the soil. They talked about meetings, some of them talked about like pre-construction meetings and then,
Where are you folks at if we ran another 10 minutes? Would that sync up with you
Yeah.
guys finishing up? Because
Yeah.
we're just gonna do a few things, but if you're ready, we can do them later, but,
no, we'll go through this in 10 minutes.
yeah, 10 minutes.
Would you guys be able to come in here, do you think?
Sure.
So she doesn't have to move the camera?
Yeah. By all means.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do anything.
Some of they talked about like community concerns meetings and a little overkill. Permitting, they all said they were going to do the permitting, except for Holden, I couldn't find that in there. The hydraulic study, Dufresne and Bell Engineering said that they did not say in their proposal they were doing a new hydraulic study. I called V-Trans today and said, is it necessary for the engineer to do another hydraulic study if we have a current hydraulic study from the state? And she said, no, because you have to build it to our hydraulic study anyways. So I don't really know why they wanted to do another one, but those two were the ones that
Which
said.
ones wanted to do it?
Others.
Du Bois and King, Holden, well, DeWolf didn't say anything about it, and then Ekman.
That might be some of the reason
Right,
prices
right.
are.
Yeah.
Well, I would say Dufresne looks like they're,
Some of them
got the
talked
same
in,
information that you did in
Yeah.
that they're using the state.
As well as Bell.
as well as
And those
Bell.
are the two low.
Yeah.
low
Um,
rates, so.
some of them talked about offering construction inspection services, which we may need to make sure that an engineer is making sure we're building it to the spec.
Mhm.
But that wasn't asked in the RFP, some of them included
And
it.
that doesn't have to be a different engineer? I mean,
No,
with
it
the
doesn't have to
sidewalk,
be.
it has to be a different, Wasn't it?
No, I don't think it does. You just have to go through the process.
oh, I thought it was a different person, but.
And then they will all give you either bid documents, contract construction specs, whatever that is needed to go out to bid. And some of them would go through the bid process with you, some of them not. So that's why there's some clear differences in costs. I talked to the state about that section and I said, do we need somebody that really, I said, I feel like if we have what we need to give to a contractor, we can put out the advertisements, we can go through the bids, we can, and she said, yeah, and that's what we're here for, is to help you through that too. So, after going through all that, I talked to Brian today. It's our recommendation to award the project to Bell Engineering. He came very highly recommended. He's qualified to complete the project, will be able to complete the project on time, and Brian has experience working with him. We feel for the scope of the project that some of the other proposals were more than what we needed. We only budgeted $6,000 for engineering in our grant application. And Bell's proposal is higher than that, but still lower than the others, so that should at least keep us closer to budget than if we went with somebody else. So,
And I'm just wondering, given who came up with that 6,000 for engineering
Mark
number?
Pickering,
Um,
he's at V-Trans.
Right.
When I called him, I said, so.
I mean, is that a red flag for the whole thing
No,
or not?
it's not.
Okay.
No. You know, he just said we'll kind of throw a number in there. 6,000 sounds, you know.
Like it
about-
might be in
yeah,
the ballpark.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days with culverts, is it?
Well, I
Couple
kind of
large
know.
flat stones.
Well, Holden was the one that
Some
really was
logs.
pushing for us to do just a study, because they didn't think we were gonna have enough money for the project. Well, yeah, 40,000 in engineering, we're
Then
not
we
gonna,
won't.
we won't.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I said to the girl at the state, we're not putting in a bridge over Route 5.
What is it? It's
I
a
don't-
box culvert,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So,
No, I mean,
there's some
What did
stream
the-
alteration that might have to be done. They're talking about the angle of this, where, but that's all permitting through the state.
do
And
you happen to know what the installation of that culvert after the Beaver Dam went? Any-
It's pretty, I don't wanna say, but
That-
it was up close to what we're talking about, I think.
Well, that's what, it should be comparable, I would think. So
Yeah, I
I'm just
don't know,
wondering,
yeah.
because it's the same stream
Yeah,
in essentially the same location,
yeah.
and they had to do some alterations of the route, et cetera. So that, I would think that would be a close comparable, but
Yeah, so the good thing will be if, and Bell said he could have it done by December 1st. I had asked by December 18th for budgeting purposes, but the 1st is even better, because we wanna budget the match into next year's budget. So we'll have the cost estimate by then in order to budget that match.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation to go with Bell Engineering for the Hickory Ridge Road Bridge project.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And since Cynthia and Brian recommended them, then we can respond to them if it.
Yeah.
I called the references, and they all were really complimentary of them, so.
That's, what's his, is it Ron Bell, is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, I've heard good things about him too.
Yeah. I've never met him. I wouldn't know him if he had no phone with him.
You a Spofford, is that
Yeah.
no relation to Jack?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Safe Routes to School grant amendment.
That we have to skip because they did not get me the grant paperwork. He was hoping to have it to me by today. I really was wanting it because we have, I didn't bring the warrants with me.
Can stop it.
Yeah, in the warrants this week, you'll see a bill for basins for this project out here. So I want to be able to submit for reimbursement, and I'm not sure I can do it without that amendment. So it's like an $83,000 bill.
Which, how does that compare to what we assumed it
It
was
was like
gonna be?
60 something.
Was there bid or was,
No,
or?
we had
that's what we
$60,000 in
thought?
grant money.
And then that required a match or didn't require a match?
none.
So, so that's costing us a trip.
Yeah, well, when you get a grant, however many years ago, cost probably was 60,000.
Yeah.
So there's money there, they're just trying to get the amendment paperwork together to send to us to add to what we already have to cover the cost.
Oh, I see. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I
Yeah.
missed that. So that would amend it to actually cover
Cover everything.
that difference?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I just didn't.
So I was hoping to get that today so that we weren't, we're gonna have to pay that, we thankfully we have money right now, but we'll have to front that until we get the reimbursement.
And that was, were there additional costs because of the screw ups with the,
No, they ended up covering some of it.
okay,
And then the other one, they did a change order on, and the state covered it because the state reviewed the plans and the plans were
they-
wrong.
right, okay.
Yeah, so they ended up being covered by something.
Good, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that will be on hopefully next week's, or not next week's, a couple weeks, agenda.
All right, so your turn, town manager's report.
Okay, so exciting news, hazard mitigation plan today. I thought it might be coming, that's why I put it on here. We got the green light from FEMA that pending our adoption of our plan, which I'm gonna hopefully have you guys do tonight. We have an approved hazard mitigation plan finally. With the first submission, there were no corrections. They
Wow.
accepted everything. Yeah. That was because Alyssa at Wyndham Regional worked really hard. She did a really good job for us, so nothing has changed in it since you last read the entire thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for approval. Let's see, what am I supposed to say? Adoption of your local hazard mitigation plan.
I'll make a motion that we adopt our local hazard mitigation plan.
I'll second that.
Yeah. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 3 years later. And then I just wanted to update you, did I update you on the meeting that I had with animal control with Barbara? I already did, didn't I? Oh, I guess I put that on there again, for no reason. There isn't been any change.
But all you updated us is that they were interested, is that?
Did I update you on the meeting that I had and told you that they were looking for, let's see. They're looking to add, so the town of Brattleboro is looking to help us out, towns in the region. They're willing to expand up to 7.5-hour increments. Did I tell you all that?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
So we had a meeting, there were 5 towns there, I think. And what Brattleboro has proposed, and has not, they haven't totally said that they want to do this, this is just kind of the initial discussions, that they're willing to expand in 7.5-hour increments. So in other words, they don't want to just be an on-call animal control person. You have to say you want somebody a certain amount of time, whether that's 1 day a week, a half a day a week.
And is that what it ends up being? Like Tuesday mornings would be animal control day?
That's what they're proposing.
So what happens on Thursday night when we have an animal?
Right, so part of this whole process would be to define what an emergency is, because then they would be available for emergencies.
Okay.
So, but they're wanting to be very cautious about what an emergency is defined, because an
Otherwise,
emergency
it'd
for
be
one
abused,
person.
right.
So at first I was like, what am I gonna do with somebody, a half a day a week or whatever it is. But that could be where we start doing the proactive
Right.
animal control, go out, talk to people, knock on doors, you need to license your, educate people, try to start having it be a more friendly environment than the environment I just went through
Right.
with the letter I sent, which was really, when I got that letter back from that individual, I thought, who in their right mind would want to do animal control?
Mm-hmm.
That was just horrible
Mm,
to be talked to like that.
mm.
Yeah.
So, so this might not be a bad idea. I don't know what the cost is, that he's gonna try to do a cost, schedule. I think we're gonna meet again in another couple weeks.
This was
A couple of the towns that were there were not interested in that type of setup. They were more interested in, you know, if we have a dog bite, because they were handling the other stuff okay. It was just if we have a major thing happen, they weren't really wanting to commit to a day a week or half a day a week because they just don't have that much activity. It's just when something
Mhm.
really big happens, they need support. So he was going to look into something like that for them, but I
Well, I
suggested
think
possibly.
we would clearly need that too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I think that my guess would be we'd be willing to support a more substantial budget for various purposes as long as it covered us when we needed it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it doesn't really serve the
What we
full
need.
purpose we need
Yeah.
it to.
I did ask if maybe we could have a discussion with Dummerston and Westminster, because maybe that half a day a week could cover that region instead of just a town.
Right.
Or it might just be Putney, Westminster, or
And Dummerston and Westminster were both there?
No, they weren't, but Westminster's interested
Okay.
in something.
Yeah.
He just couldn't make it.
Yeah, that would seem logical. I mean, a half day a week for Putney and Westminster,
Yeah.
for example, I would think.
Because there are things like this
Yeah.
thing I just went through that it could wait until Monday. You know, if somebody called me
Yeah.
on Wednesday, it could wait until
Mhm.
Monday for that animal
Put it on the-
control
put it on
person
the
to go
list,
out and
right.
talk to somebody and,
It actually would even give an opportunity to make an appointment and,
right,
you know, have it be.
yeah. You know, I think people are feeling very, threatened when I send a letter. They don't like that I'm sending a letter, but I don't have time to investigate.
Well, it's also, I mean, I have to say,
Yeah.
that's a personal issue for people, I think, because to me, the letter you sent was pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I didn't think I was very threatening.
I mean,
at all.
I think it probably,
I was trying to be
when
naughty,
you've,
but-
when you've already been feeling harassed by your neighbors, whoever, and then you get a letter, I guess that feels threatening, but I thought your letter was totally appropriate. I thought it was clear and concise and not threatening at all. It was just a statement of what needed to be stated.
Yeah.
But,
That's why I say maybe, you know, and as awful as that letter was to me, there were some valid points in there about, well, if I'm gonna license, what about the 50, you know, and I get all that. I get that that's going on. I get that we have this regulation and
It's not
sometimes it
enforced.
feels like it's not enforced.
Right.
And I get that. I totally,
Yeah.
but
but
Yeah.
we can't enforce it.
right,
it's
so
what it
that's
is.
why
Yeah.
maybe a half a day a week, and like I said, that proactive kind of talking to people a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if it's 10 people in the morning, you know, just visiting, you know, just, I'm here, do you know you need to license your dog and why you need to do it? You know, one of his arguments was, and, you know, the whole $55, I'm sure the town could really need it, and for me, it's not even about the money licensing a dog, it's making sure that if somebody gets bit, we know if the dog has been
Right.
vaccinated.
Right.
So anyway, so then the other things that the town manager, you know, his questions are, who's gonna provide the vehicle? These are just kind of questions he threw out. Who would provide the vehicle, which I said to him, I assume you guys would. He did wanna know if we were all part of passive.
You guys meaning
Brattleboro.
that, yeah.
He wanted to know if we were part of passive, which is the insurance, and I told him we were not. And that he didn't know if that made a difference. He was gonna call the insurance company to talk about liability
But we-
stuff.
We are,
No, we're not. That's the lead insurance. We're not part of passive.
I thought we were part of passive, we just didn't get their insurance.
No,
No?
no. So that's where we're at with that discussion. I think in a couple weeks, we're all gonna get back together.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Looks like they're ready.
So thanks for coming, guys. Does everyone know each other?
And maybe we should do introductions anyway.
Sure, Scott Henry, Select Board.
Josh Laughlin, Select Board.
Steve Head, Select Board?
Cynthia Stoddard, Town Manager.
Alan Devlin, School Board. Christopher Arian, School Board.
Alice Loughlin, School Board.
And Beacon School Board.
Richard Glacier.
Okay. So we, Cynthia and I have been talking for a while about getting us together again. The last time we all met was probably a year and a half ago. And that was when we had, we were sort of in the beginning of working on a 3-year long-range plan. And part of that plan was to do a better job communicating with you guys and other core stakeholders in town. And so we haven't met with you for a while, and we wanted to do that. We're also want to review finances and how those work between the town and the school and the SU. Part of the reason we want to do that is you guys are not yet fully in the loop of Act 46. I don't know how much you guys have learned about that. But
Not what I
Yeah.
used to hear more.
so we can talk a little bit about that, and might, you know, if we're only gonna meet for 45 minutes to an hour, it might not be the time to really delve into that, because that's a complicated beast, that you will learn a lot more about. And we're not as articulate about that as I'm sure we would like to be. Perhaps Richard might want to speak to it the most. Do you want to actually give a quick talk on Act? Yeah. Richard's on our finance committee at the district level.
And maybe the kind of basic question is, the basic issue is that the state is incentivizing consolidation. And there are districts, there are current districts within the state that have opportunities to do quicker consolidation and be rewarded with tax benefits to do so.
Significant tax.
Significant, well, I think there are debates about within different districts as to how significant that would be. And one of the things that the SU is working on right now is what would that look like? So for example, if we are with Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union, we in some ways are a textbook example of what could be a fast-tracked move to consolidation and become a district. In the sense that we have all schools that feed in, that already share substantial resources. You know, we're really only one step away from a district as it is in terms of how we share resources around special education, around that's the most recent one, but this around other part, and everything is done through the supervisory union with respect to staffing. And the question comes down to is the question of autonomy. Guilford in particular is a district that is expressing strong concern about what this would do to the nature of their school. Although interestingly, they are much more consolidated already, given that they send students to BAMS and we don't. And so I think that's where a lot of the questions will be on whether we make that move or not make that move. One of the effects of that is to remove school districts as we know it, so there would not be a Putney school district, or excuse me, a school board. And part of the language surrounding Act 46 is to construct advisory boards that might function like our school board now does in terms of its relationship to the town and the community, but it would not have a budgetary function. And in fact, what would happen is there would be one supervisory district board where, for example, where all of the budgetary pieces would happen. And we would have a representative to that, but of course, Brattleboro being a larger community would have three. And most likely Vernon would have one, and Guilford would have one, and Dummerston would have one. So, right, we all, I think every district in the supervisory union has already voted for developing a, what's the group, a study group to look at this. We'll start meeting at the end of the month and see if we are in a position to go for what we expect to be a higher benefit, tax benefit, by going early. It would mean that we would have to decide by town meeting And then, it's a very fast timeline for that. There are other options, and other options have obviously less tax benefits associated with them, so
Do
there's,
you remember the numbers? Is it 2% less?
I think that's right.
It's 10, 8.
10, 8, and the other one starts at 8%, and then down from there, yeah. And then there are other
10.
options.
10 being the percentage of benefit,
On.
what does that,
Is it
what
percentage
does
or is
that
it cents?
mean?
It's 10, oh,
It's 10
it's 10
cents.
cents
Right.
on,
On the education rate?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And again, what that.
Savings of 10 cents.
Right.
And it steps down over.
And it steps down over 4 years until, and it's designed, I think that the way it was described most recently, those numbers are designed to make the transition, the tax transition over those 4 years, for all the contributing towns to even out over time. So it is unclear yet what benefits each individual town would have, and the supervisory union chief financial officer is working on that right now, so we'll know more soon. Is that good enough?
Yeah, I mean, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, because I think, I mean, where I was sort of the most sort of like, oh no, we're gonna lose the school board, is that all we're really doing is separating out the financial purview over that and giving that to this general committee, and that we still will have something that may not be called a school board, but we'll still be doing essentially what we're doing in terms of how the school operates. Is that correct?
Well, that's debatable,
Okay.
right? That's the concern.
Right, I think.
Just what exactly would be replacing the school boards? Would there be
There would be one
District.
single
A
district,
single
because
district.
what we're basically right now,
And
we're a series of districts
would
that come
that
into
be,
one, we would be one
you
district.
know, one representative per town? I mean,
Yeah, except for the three brackets.
Like the union school.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Along those
Yeah.
lines. And we would be doing this not with Brattleboro, but with the outlying towns?
It would be all, it would be
Brattleboro.
Brattleboro,
So-
Guilford,
Their
Hubbardston.
representation be weighted
Right.
Yeah, we have
larger
3.
as a
Yes.
result.
Yeah.
Yes. And when we come to the town, it's like coming with the Brattleboro Union, the high school budget, it would be a set thing that we would come to in each individual.
So did you, I mean, I'm not sure that you clarified what I said, but what I'm assuming there is that one of the biggest concerns of the community is that we're losing control over our schools. So the question is, how much autonomy does, in fact, this advisory group that will be replacing the school boards still have a say over what happens, other than finances?
Well, I
But
think
then
that,
You're gonna have to check both of these.
that's the problem, is that the finance, much of the control is
True.
driven by finances, so certainly people's concern is that, I mean, for example, we choose to have all the extras that we have. What happens if the district as a large says, we don't want all these extras,
We choose not to send our children to bands. And what if the district were, I mean,
This is one of the
Right.
these are
potential.
very real, I mean, and right now, with Ron and others, the district is very much saying, every school is individual, every school has its character, every school. And
Right.
so that language is very much there from them, and I believe them, but you don't, but what other folks who are pushing back on this, moving quickly into consolidation, would say, but you don't know. You don't know what's gonna, so we can say, oh, no schools will close, but you don't know.
Right, but once you give up that control and you become an advisory board.
Right.
Right.
How does it get decided, the consolidation? Is it a vote of
It's a
the?
vote.
Yes.
Town
of
meeting,
all the towns?
all the towns.
So what if one
So
town?
each town will vote.
And if one town were to decide, so for example, in the finance committee, when we started these conversations, the town that has been most kind of pushing back on this is Guilford. If Guilford were to say, we don't want to do this, then none of us can do this.
Right, so all have to
It's
say
all,
yeah.
in order for the fast track, all or none.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I believe we need to vote, I would imagine.
We vote and then it goes.
We
to-
vote and then, right,
Then it goes to a town vote.
yes.
And in the second round, then you can do various kinds of things. And one of the things that we've met with Marlborough School, for example, who's thinking about, do they want to come this way and join this district? Do
Right.
they want to go the other way? Is there a third, and they just had a town meeting or an informational meeting with the town on Monday, and I think, I don't know which direction they're going to go. It strikes me that they're in a position to do one of the third or fourth options that I
Right,
can't get into all the details on, because I don't know those.
yeah.
But I think hopefully too, by town meeting, we'll know whether that's even an option, for that fast track, and if it is, we'll be more informed and there'll be more information forthcoming to hopefully try to present that to folks who may have read about it in the newspaper, but really haven't had a chance to, understand it as fully, so we'll be able to try to, have a synopsis of the pros and cons and our recommendation. So.
This has been a long time coming down the road, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, and there's also the possibility, this came up in our meeting just before, there are potential court objections to this, but, without you have to go forward with what you have in front of you. The state can make different decisions later on, but you can't wait until they do that, the hope of that.
So that incentive, though, is time-related. So if you do this so that's where that 10-8-6 you were
Yes.
talking about comes in.
6 or 2, something like that. That's what it is.
The districts that act fastest.
Will benefit the most, at least initially, presumably over
Right.
time, that will all even out.
Not necessarily.
Well, I think the assumption is that over time, the efficiency piece will come in, because there has been significant savings over the last 2 years with the consolidation around special education.
Yeah.
It allows sharing between schools in ways that does save revenue. And so the idea is that this is an incentive to get you to start with the idea that over time, you are going to have efficiencies come in that will
Hopefully create savings
Yeah.
as well.
And do you think that's gonna be the case? I mean, do you feel that the efficiencies are worth whatever quote-unquote sacrifice we would be making?
I think it's hard to say. I think that it may pan out that the relative size and geographical terms and also student enrollment of districts will determine sort of the scale of any savings. If large school districts go to a school choice model, for example, within the district, I always question how they'll handle things like transportation and so forth, which is a large expense. I'd be surprised, frankly, if there wasn't a legal challenge to the incentive piece as it's related to taxes. It seems highly unusual that the legislature would be able to do that
Incentivize.
and have it, incentivize that
Yeah,
and have it just sit there and not be challenged.
yeah.
Be pretty interesting to see. As far as the savings from consolidation of staff, I could see benefits for some of the itinerant staff, for example, that we already have in place. For example, we have speech and language here 3 days a week. There might be an opportunity to share other people of that type at a lower cost if it was sort of spread out over the district. Foreign language might be a place where we could benefit from some of that. Beyond that, I want to see I would love to see the draft plan of the alleged efficiencies and what that really means.
And we're gonna see that for each town.
Yeah, we'll see that soon.
Or
Yeah.
a draft of that.
You're right.
And the other part is there's not just the efficiencies, but then there's penalties if you don't do it. So there are benefits that you get for doing it, and then there are, so if you don't do it, there are other things that you lose that make it highly unattractive not to do it.
Just because you missed the first part, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, hi, sorry. My name's Irv Pelletier, and I'm the principal here at Putney Central School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like a director.
Camera left. Someone's got to have this.
So really, I guess, the idea is that we don't really know. And I guess until we really know that, we haven't even really formed an opinion. But the idea was basically to say, if you didn't know this was coming down the road, that this is what's happening.
One opinion, we do know that we're lucky in this district. We're a pretty highly functioning district. We have a superintendent and business manager who we feel strongly about, who help us run a pretty tight ship and create some creative, things like at the high school and the career center, pretty exciting stuff. And we know that we're perhaps quite different than many of the schools, I mean, in the state of Vermont, I mean, we are able to offer, in a school of 170, things that a school of 20 or 15
Right,
can't offer.
right.
So we know that there are challenges in the state that we do not face. But we also see our tax dollars rising pretty dramatically for the
Sure.
education.
Right.
Is it safe to assume that consolidation for schools of our scale is likely to go essentially as sort of envisioned, but change if the demographics of the school change dramatically? I mean, I'm just, there's been this question in Putney for a long time of how dramatically is our student population going to drop? It hasn't dropped as dramatically as it had initially been proposed, but it's significantly less than it was 20 years ago. If it were significantly less 10 years from now, are we much more likely to be sending our 7th and 8th graders to
It's
bands?
hard to know. I think the proponents of the legislation would say that you have some protection, in a sense, by having the district be the entity, so that, a drain on one school won't necessarily, if we lost 30 kids here for some reason, that would have a substantial impact on our capacity to continue doing business as usual.
As it's currently structured.
As it's currently structured, right, because we have fixed costs, right? On the other hand, if there were to be a net loss of 30 students in the district, which is entirely feasible, it's relatively minor.
Yeah.
It would take much longer for that to have a negative impact than it would in one school setting.
And often many of our students move between towns within the district as it is. So-
They do, yeah,
Not
they
all.
do.
Yeah.
No, it happens fairly often, yeah, 5 or 6 here, 5 or 6
Yeah.
there, yeah.
And maybe I'm getting too far into this, but does it guarantee school choice of any sort or not?
Well, I believe that the district gets to define what school choice means. In most instances, and this actually is de facto now, I mean, there is limited school choice in a number of schools in the area. And typically what it looks like is that you decide that you're gonna take an aggregate of, say, 5% for school choice. In other words, 2.5%, up to 2.5% can come in, up to 2.5% can go out. As long as you don't go past that 5%, then you're fine. And that has been going on for a number of years in different schools. It's mostly a high school thing. Yeah.
We've certainly talked about school choice, though.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Marlboro
Right.
has school choice right now. And so that was, when they heard that we didn't have school choice, that made them a little hesitant. And so the conversation developed some, and I think will be pursued a bit more. School choice can be quite expensive, but as I understand it, there are potentially ways around
Yeah.
that. So it will be discussed.
I think they expected the state to come back and do, and really put a limit on that. It didn't happen, but
Yeah.
I know Margaret was expecting that to happen. So they were prepared, but that's not what.
If this is a question at town meeting, will you guys have an informational meeting before town meeting?
We will have to, yes.
Okay.
If not more than one.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is complicated.
Yeah,
We always have one on the budget itself. And
Yeah.
you could roll it into that, yeah.
So just to, so the incentives are, if you do it in the accelerated transition, it's actually a 5 years worth of incentives, 10 cents, 8 cents, 6 cents, 4 cents, 2 cents. If you do the conventional, you don't get the first 10 cents and it goes from 8 all the way down to 2. So you get an extra benefit of the 10 cent in the first year.
But you don't need uniform agreement. with
For
the-
conventional, for
conventional.
accelerated, you need it. Everybody who's currently already associated needs to remain associated. They don't want anyone to say, well, the 3 of us are gonna go together and do it, just for the
Right.
heck of it.
So that's something we've been talking about a lot.
And the negatives, if you haven't done this by July 1st, 2020, you lose all your 3.5 hold harmless protections, and then also by July 1st, 2017, a 5% tax penalty.
5%.
Yes.
Wow.
This is what I'm talking
So,
Yeah.
so it's, the upside is cents, the
downside
downside
is
is
percent.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's the incentive of potential savings, but really it's the 5%.
Wow.
It's the hammer, you know.
So we can share
Extortion.
some of this info with you. So another thing we've been talking about for the last couple of years is perhaps because consolidation or unification is on our mind is looking at how the school and the town function. And a few years ago, the previous version of the school board created a list of assets of after school and before school extracurricular activities, as well as a list of all the volunteers who participated in those. And clearly the success of the programs were directly related to the strength of the volunteer base. And so the board had that information and didn't really do anything with it. And it seems like it's time to really look at that again and acknowledge that Putney is a pretty fantastic town with a phenomenal amount of volunteers and a lot of community organizations which depend on those volunteers. So it might be time, and so Cynthia and I chatted about this, really looking at all those organizations and figuring out which organizations get money from the town, which don't, and perhaps finding grant funds to put towards a position to really do an inventory of all of those programs and see ways where we can perhaps not necessarily consolidate, but integrate all of the programs, because we do have so many volunteers, but we are also a community getting older, and we need to keep the volunteers. We still need these high amount of volunteers, so we need to think strategically and figure out if we could sort of join together and use our resources to perhaps integrate and build stronger programs. So we've been touching base on that.
Yeah, and I could not find the folder with all the stuff in it. I did bring extra town reports because each one of those programs and each one of those organizations has a report in there, which is basically what's in the things I was gonna copy.
Yep.
So I don't know how much you wanna get into each agency right now or what's funded, or maybe it's just what are the next steps to this. I don't know how we wanna proceed with it. I mean,
So,
go ahead.
I mean, just throwing out this idea for example, we've got, the school has a lot of needs. And increasingly, those needs are increasing for a variety of reasons. But we have before school programming, after school programming, occasionally weekend programming, but the summer programming is getting more intense. We've got a higher poverty rate and across the state, but here in Putney, it looks like our direct cert numbers are floating around 40%. That's pretty significant. And so we are seeing the need to be more proactive year-round. And so we have a summer program, which could be much broader. We have an athletic program, which is, we have the rec league who uses the facilities here, but it's funded by the town. They do a great job, but they do have problems finding volunteers. We have a middle school athletic program, which is supported by the school financially, usually often run by teachers to some extent, some volunteers. But there are all these things that are happening that could be perhaps integrated or consolidated, putting all the resources together, so that, you know, we're not depending on volunteers who are already taxed. I mean, you know, not taxed, but taxed.
Oversubscribed.
So this is the conversation. Some towns, for example, with rec leagues, some towns I know in Connecticut, they have a full-time or a part-time rec league employee who's either, I don't know if it's a school and a town position, or, you know, whether it's both or either or. But it becomes, it's very well organized, it's managed, and that person finds the volunteers. So there's more communication. So that's an example of one idea.
Well, an example of going across school and town, if we could, you know, if we could find somebody or some, you know, that is maybe the coordinator of our rec department, let's
Right.
say, that includes the pool.
Exactly.
So, instead of what we're doing now.
Right, so a lot of people are trying to hold things together right now, and it could be like 1 or 2 people. Go ahead.
I mean, this may be getting more in fine detail than we really want, because you're giving an overview, but both Alice and I were part of the library's get-together the other night. They're looking at the 5-year plan, and we had about 30 people who were all volunteers who came to do that. One of the things that was suggested, which I thought was actually really fabulous, and it should just be in the back of everybody's mind, I think, is the idea of having a speed dating, matching, you know, kind of matching volunteers with groups. So that you have a town-wide thing where everybody, all the organizations are invited. And then you have all the people who want to volunteer, and they kind of go around and say, oh, here's a perfect fit. You know, I've got this much time. Because in fact, you know, every time we're looking for somebody, it's like you're calling 10 people, and half of them aren't home, and the other 3 go hem and haw, and the 4th one says, I'll call you back. And, you know, so I think thinking kind of on that kind of idea of how can we create a structure that better brings people together, as well as things like, you know, a paid position, implementing that kind of stuff.
Putney Central School, I don't know how many years ago, used to have a paid volunteer coordinator. And I do remember when that position was phased out because of money.
Just for the school?
It was just for the school. But certainly that's something perhaps that could be looked at for the community.
Yeah, because the library is looking for, you know, they have a problem with after school,
Exactly, yeah.
looking for a space, that kind of, you know, thing to have.
Well, and actually, one of the things that came up was actually having somebody in the social services be in the library as a paid position. And, you know, that also could be a volunteer coordinator role or something like that, where we're really just kind of all looking at the big picture and kind of figuring out where the loose, you know, the things are, and figuring out where we could kind of create those things where we're really more like this than like this.
So, Steve, you could speak to this, but I do know, so that our middle schoolers tend to, we've got, you know, 30 to 40 kids who go to the library after school. And so there are all these people all these organizations, the library, Putney Family Services, trying to find a solution, but there's not oversight of that. So a lot of people are trying to put things together and having a lot of conversations and ideas, but it's sort of, which is wonderful, but really it's sort of dysfunctional because there's not some overall plan. You know, a lot of people are expending energy and time, and which is great, but you can see where I'm going.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there is no one that holds, I mean, it's for the middle school students,
Yeah.
but it's not really a school issue, it's not really a library issue, I mean, it's a community issue, and so we need someone to oversee all this, to pull it all together.
Right.
And we were trying to kind of do it via the PTO in a way, but it's extremely difficult to kind of get that stuff organized.
Right.
And I think that group can be, I don't know that this is currently an issue, and I haven't heard about it, but we certainly have had neighbors of the library come to us with issues in the past, because kids are not being managed effectively and affecting, you know, essentially overflow from the library is becoming a problem for
Right.
the neighbors at the
Well,
library.
one of the things that's actually, it wasn't brought up at the meeting, at the library meeting, but it's been a conversation that's been going on in the background, is that next stage could become
Destination.
after-school program for kids, and, might even be possible to get the DSL line moved from the library, extended from the library up to there, so that there could be computers there. Kids could be doing the work, because that's the complaint at, 3 o'clock, the culture changes and everybody's in there looking for a job. Suddenly wants, sitting next to somebody who wants to play a computer game.
And school can't work to make that an option here in this building?
I think that there's a particular cachet to the off-campus
Sure.
location.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that we've offered a number of different things over the years. We always have takers.
Sure.
But there's something about the loosely structured, mostly unsupervised nature of getting out there with your pals for a couple of hours and having some fun that's, pretty appealing. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Worked
It's-
for us.
Yeah, they're basic, I have kind of spoken with a number of middle school students. Basically what they want is internet connection somewhere nearby to be able to walk out and pick up food. And a place to sit around and
Just
talk.
hang.
Just,
Yeah.
a drop-in center type thing, and I think that's kind of reasonable, because if you don't have a place for them to go, they're gonna find,
Yeah.
which we see at the library, they find a place, and then that's gonna,
And you also have those I'm thinking about a number of students are involved in after-school sports, but when those those in-between.
Oh, yeah, so
times,
the numbers.
The numbers just
Right.
jump right up between soccer and basketball.
Oh, yeah,
It's just,
the 2 weeks off,
Yeah.
the place will be mobbed. And then there's not as many kids who play basketball as play soccer.
Right.
So throughout the winter, really, it is
Yeah.
pretty full.
And Burt's closes in the winter, so.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
This is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Do you folks have any thoughts about perhaps,
I guess I'm just wondering what the next step is,
right,
because, I think you're right, if we wanna take an overall view of all of the library, the town, we need someone that is doing that, and that's it's gotta be a paid person.
right,
And to try to pull that together, so I guess that the next step is to look for funding for
Right.
that.
and it's not only about, I think, activities, I don't wanna,
Yeah,
it's also about space. I mean, the town has all these assets, so the school, Putney Family Services, Community Center, Pierce Hall, the list goes on, and they're not all being used as, to the best of their potential, there's a lot of potential there. So what sort of funding could there be for?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that was my question, is between discretionary fund, whatever there is, at the town, the school, the library, would there be enough within what's already budgeted to at least have a part-time position?
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
that would be the next step.
I don't think so.
Would,
I don't-
would that also be adding in I'm sorry, I just had a different term, the non-school related athletic part of it as well?
Directly?
Yeah.
Directly, I mean, would it also be directly a piece that would bring some, because there's money already associated with that role, and I wondered if you start cobbling together things and centralize it and put it under one person,
Yeah.
is there some money already associated with that?
I would imagine that we could come up with some matching funds. I would propose that we find someone to consult for a few months. What were you and I talking about? Finding someone to sort of do an inventory,
Yeah,
and then determine what's needed or even wanted. and then go from there.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
think it'd be worth talking to Sevitz about perhaps finding somebody or not
Yeah,
necessarily.
we can. I mean, there might be an internship there that.
That's what
yeah.
I'm thinking might
Yeah.
be.
It's just, who is going to oversee the intern?
mhm.
That takes a lot of energy and organization and, so an intern versus someone that has done this and knows
Right.
what to do and what's
And
needed.
I guess I'm sort of imagining there would be an intern who might know a little bit about that, but that might be unrealistic.
Yeah.
Well, if you take the supervisory cost, it might be more effective just to get somebody who's got
Right, that's what Cynthia's saying, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And do we know other towns, I mean, again, this is not a Putney-specific problem. I hear it from other
Yeah.
groups, especially in the middle school age, is really tough because, there are things for elementary school kids, but there's not a lot of services available for that age group. And some other communities must have wrestled with this and come up with some really interesting
I know that
solutions.
Rockingham has, Bells Falls, they have their rec league, and they have up by their swimming pool, they have a space. Kids go up there after school all the time. Of course, they have the basketball court up there, they have the baseball fields up there, they have the playground up there. They have somebody there that's supervising them. I mean, my daughter used to go there after school when she was in middle school in Bells Falls. They'd go up there, they're on their phones, there's games, there's, a lot of time it was basketball outside. I don't know how much of that they do in the winter, like if it's open, but they have a rec director that kind of oversees all of that. My kids grew up in Westminster.
Was that
I
to
don't know
someone?
what they did when they were little.
Also, it seems like somebody who's involved in kind of managing athletics is not necessarily the person who really you want kind of coordinating social services.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset.
Recreation is not just the athletic part. I mean, I think
Right.
that's a really
Yeah,
important
no,
piece
he's
of it.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
he actually, the one they have there, he actually works at the high school during the winter, so he's
Mhm.
part-time, I think,
Mhm.
I do know when my kids were growing up in Westminster, we had a similar situation where we had WASA, which was our sports rec, which was separate from the school. And that always was very confusing to people. It's
Yeah.
like you're using their facilities, but you're hiring somebody to mow the lawn. It was like this weird, and I always kind of thought the same thing there is, how can't we all just kind of do this together somehow? But you really just need that person, and I don't know.
You need a coordinator. in
Yeah,
order
you
to
need
be
a
able to
coordinator,
make
and
that
it's just a
step.
matter of searching grant
Right.
possibilities.
I mean, basically it's Boys and Girls Club.
But it's not,
That's what they do
yeah,
there,
but,
but that's independently.
and I'm not
Yeah,
only thinking
although-
about boys and girls, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
community, and that the youth
Yeah.
are just a part of that. I mean, if you're talking rec league, it could be, someone doing yoga or tai chi with,
Right, yeah. Mhm.
the elders, so.
Yeah.
There are a few people at PCS who are starting to work on grants
Mhm.
together. Perhaps that small group and I look
Well, and I
and,
haven't looked in quite a while, but I at one point updated, there was a grant site you could go on and kind of put the specific things and
Mhm.
get alerts. And I haven't done that for quite a while. I'd have to refresh my brain on how to do it, but I can
okay,
look a little bit.
is that a website you have to pay for?
No, I don't think so. There were several different, I'll just have to pull out the
Okay.
folder. There's a lot of different sites actually that you go to.
Yeah.
I think Senator Leahy has a few links on his website.
It might be worth finding, one of the people I know in Connecticut who holds this, or held this position, was my sister in the town that they live in, which is demographically almost identical to Putney. And it would be interesting to I could get her to send a copy of the job description.
Yeah.
Because she stepped down from that position not too long ago, and they had a search and found somebody, and they might have information, but we might be able to get that from various different towns. I don't know whether they're, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Vernon had something like this.
I'm sure
when
they
were
probably did.
feeling flush. They may not anymore, I don't know, but, you know, I would guess that there are towns, Rockingham, you know, just to gather job descriptions and see
Yeah.
what different people are looking for in order to fill this, because I think that rec league, certainly in my sister's role, was everything from basketball games to taking seniors to the flower show in Hartford
Right.
to, you know, museum visits for all ages to everything. And it was, you know, I think that's the kind of thing we would be more hoping for, but that includes the 7th and 8th, you know, it's a bigger picture thing.
So how was that funded? Was it both the
Town.
school district?
I don't know, actually, I'm not sure whether the school funded it as well, but I know it's a town position. That's the kind of thing we should find out, is how they are funded and what they look like, and then maybe we can
Right,
start
because
to.
you know, we all know what happens when we fund something with just a grant.
Right.
Within 2 years,
It's not sustainable.
yeah.
Well, although, I mean, you know, the sheriff's department being a good example of a grant opportunity that essentially
Right, but it,
created a reality, but it was designed that way.
yeah,
But somebody has to fund it after a certain period of time. But if that need is recognized during that grant period, I don't know what the structure of the grants would look like for something like this, but might be.
And making an initial commitment from the community towards such a position is actually, I mean, I think a lot of grants now are looking for sustainability, and they don't want to just do something that
right,
they take care of it. So to start something up front with the
Yeah.
idea of doing something in a small way that we expand, that might be more open to grant support than to not do anything until we have a grant piece to do.
Yeah, I think the other thing to do would be for you all, and I don't know who would do it on your board, and Cynthia fortunately does this kind of thing for us, but to look at the financial resources that might be available to contribute to, I mean, you know, we give to the rec league. What else what are the other line items that might contribute towards something like that?
right, and I think
whether
that's
it's
what you were getting
library-
at was,
Yes.
these
That's why I
other
was the
agencies
numbers.
that we're funding,
Yes.
are they doing something similar already? I mean, are we funding things
that
Are we duplicating?
could,
Yeah,
that
we're
could fall
duplicating,
under
yeah.
this purview, right, that's exactly. Because if it turns out that between the school district and the town, we have, you know, $15,000 going towards something,
Or
it's
more.
not a huge
Yeah.
leap to say, well, you know, we really want to fund this and it's only X amount more,
Yeah.
and this is what we would achieve by doing it. So I think identifying those sources would be worthwhile.
So which organizations do you fund? Does the town?
So, Putney Cares. So our top, which we have groups, A, B, and C. The A group gets the most money, those are Putney organizations, Putney Cares, Putney Community
Can
Center.
you,
Community
can you
feedback.
say the dollar amount?
Yeah, it's 4,500 for each of these.
Has,
Putney,
has been, the services budget
yeah, fluctuates.
varies depending on who's included, et cetera. So that's been at times over 6,000 for Putney organizations.
Yeah.
And it fluctuates depending on who's involved.
For the last,
For
for the last 3 years, it's stayed around 4,500.
So what are those?
So
45?
Putney Cares, Putney Community Center, Putney Family Services, and the Putney Food Shelf. So those are the 4 Putney A group. And then in the B group, which is $3,000, Senior Solutions, which is previously Council on Aging, HCRS, Sevka. I can give you a copy of this if you
Yeah.
want me to email you a copy of
Yeah.
this, Sevka, Visiting Nurse, Youth Services.
What's youth services?
That's why I brought this book Here.
Yeah, I would guess
Brattleboro at risk.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
what are they?
that there wouldn't be
Well,
huge,
So they're,
that's the National Youth Services, or?
No, it's
Yeah.
rather than-
well, yeah, this is the Brattleboro, so their services include Big Brothers Big Sisters,
to use at risk.
Yeah.
basically.
transitioning youth into foster care, assist to teens leaving home or at risk from running away, so that kind of, or
Yeah.
diversion, that kind of
Homelessness,
thing. That's the end of the D group of 3,000. Did you want to say something?
Well, I think that it's always tricky for us when we start playing with these because they're social services that we've supported regularly for long periods of time, and basically the tier system is based on either their presence in Putney and servicing essentially only Putney residents, or based on the numbers of Putney residents that they are likely to serve in any given year, and/or the bigger picture that they serve, the greater area kind of thing. One of the ways that something like this could be included in this budget is if it was an entity of its own per se, whatever it might be, then it potentially could be one of those top tier Putney categories and get a significant chunk of that budget. But I think the idea of otherwise sort of taking anything out of the social services budget to put towards this is probably tricky.
Well, I don't think we're.
No, I know,
suggesting that.
but if we're trying to identify places to
Yeah.
get funding from, then
I think it's more about what are the services they're
Yeah,
providing.
That's, yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
That's how I took it, is that it might not just be that it's, is there something that's happening that like one volunteer is doing over here, and then in this organization, that volunteer is doing the same thing with different people. That was the biggest
Mhm.
reason for,
yeah, and it's helpful to hear this list because that's what the community cares about. Are there other names on the list? or-
yeah, there's a big group of C group, which is they get 500.
Mhm.
Which is AIDS Project of Southern Vermont, the Drop-In Center, Brattleboro Area Hospice, Gathering Place, Morningside House, RSVP of Wyndham County, Vermont Adult Learning, Wyndham Child Care, and the Humane Society. Oh, Wyndham's Freedom Center is the other one.
So this is kind of being part of regional support, like all the other.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're doing the same thing.
But that do, at least in some capacity, serve Putney residents.
Of course, I just mean that the Putney residents have needs of something, of a larger organization.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
the greater area.
yeah.
I mean, I think if we're talking about what it is that they do, and are there things being duplicated, we have to look in those top four,
Right.
top four, and work with those groups to say, okay, where are we overlapping and,
So that you didn't mention the rec league.
no, they're part of our regular general fund budget.
Okay, and are there other organizations like the rec league that are in the general fund?
No, because the only other one we give to the,
Club? Or is that part of
no, that's a tax exempt question.
Vicariously, we support the
The
library, so.
library.
I was gonna say the library,
I mean,
so,
because
yeah.
it is,
Yeah,
No, because the only other thing we really give to outside of the social service budget is the transportation, the bus. What is that called? CRT or
Mhm.
yeah.
the current or whatever it's called now.
And.
We have 7,725 in the budget for the rec. We call it rec coordinator, but
Mhm.
there's lots of people that get little chunks of money for different things that they do.
But that might be, the rec coordinator might be really what we want to be looking at.
Right.
As opposed to little chunks of money going to various.
Right, and then we have rec coordinator and pool manager.
I was gonna say, pool, yeah, the pool is definitely the other one that I would say comes into play in this, because A is a budgetary item, but B is a huge
Nightmare.
time
yeah, I
consumer
mean-
for Cynthia and Laura.
And how much do you allocate for that?
Well, the pool labor is around 17,000. I don't know how much of that we paid our coordinator, our manager this year. She was new, and she worked sporadically. I'd have to look at how much, this was the first year we've had her.
But the pool also brings in a
Right,
significant
which we cover about 80, we
Yeah.
cover about 80%
Yeah.
of the cost of the pool. And
through membership.
More if you bring your
Right,
bottles to the town hall where they
Well,
get
that's the
sorted.
other kind of thing, that, you know,
They're
they're,
overflowing.
Oh,
That's
I
what-
know, my
From the
volunteer
town
got
hall
a little
right
sidetracked.
But the pool that does have the possibility of creating more income and could also be used perhaps as a school warrant.
Yeah.
Which we've
You know,
talked
I
about,
think,
yeah.
you know,
Oh,
so-
and then it wouldn't be your volunteer, it would be somebody
An
else's.
employee.
It would be- Or an intern, or somebody who, I mean, that's, interning for rec department, rec office, there are a lot, I mean, when you talk about getting interns, that's a place where someone wanting to come in and intern for a summer
Yeah.
would be, I mean, college students would love jobs like that.
well, particularly,
Yeah,
Because-
yeah, I mean,
Because,
oh,
boy,
yeah.
they're really hard to find and keep.
It-
And that's not even an
But-
internship, that's a paid job.
but, well, but I think what it would be is if you had a rec coordinator, whatever that looked like.
They could coordinate that.
Exactly,
They would
that
do
could
that,
run
yeah.
an intern effectively,
Yeah.
whether they're doing the pool
Right.
or the, you know,
That's the
after
key
school
part,
or
is you need
whatever,
someone
this and
who's,
that.
you know, who thinks of them as, this is my group to get what I need done, and then you have two or
And one of
three
those is, yeah,
to
is
help
having an
models.
intern.
I mean, that's
Absolutely.
great, that pays
Yeah.
for the intern and it pays for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can also check the AmeriCorps. If you have,
Yeah.
if you have a
Yeah.
volunteer coordinator, then, you know, you can have access to AmeriCorps, which could be, you know, up to a year,
You know, that's a great idea.
you know, so.
Especially given the range of things we're talking about. I mean, I love the idea, this is a multi-generational
Yeah.
focus, it's not just
Yeah.
for middle schoolers, right? It's focused
Yeah,
for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talk about being a destination community, and I think having those kinds of services for everyone would be wonderful.
I would love to have somebody that would be willing to take some younger kids out to like the fire station and spend, you know, I think part of Tom's hesitation to have kids in there is he has to supervise them. But we need to start showing them in the community what goes on in these places so that they gather an interest for, you know, we've been talking about the fire station and the lack of volunteers, and any community that's successful at it is because the kids grow up in it,
There, yeah.
or they're exposed to it, or, you know,
And I think that's probably true with many of our
A
services.
lot of
I mean, I think that
Yep.
right now, as far as volunteers are concerned, you know, it's an aging volunteer group, and I think that, you know, the Lantern Supper, to me, is a good example of, you know, there's all sorts of people volunteering to do it, but there are sort of core aging people, but then you see who's coming, there's a lot of young people there, and it's like, you know what, folks? You know, this is great.
Which is
But-
across the board, I mean, you know, look at us, look at.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
Right.
why I think that
Looking
the
at
idea of doing
faces
a
are-
sort of
are-
speed
yeah.
dating or something like that, where you're really reaching out to a lot of different groups, to, you know, the high school, to, you know, local colleges or whatever, and say, find a place, you know, if it's only an hour a week or an hour a month, whatever, we need you, because a lot of
The
people,
services.
a lot of people want to be invited. You know,
Yeah.
they don't want to, you know, it's only a very small group of people who say, I really want to help and I'm going
Yeah.
to find something. So I think being able to match and create that as a culture in the community is really, really important.
there's a lot of hesitation because you worry that if you volunteer for that hour, it's going to turn into 10 years of 8 hours a week instead of. So there's a lot of hesitation for
Something
that.
none of us know.
So I think that the speed dating idea is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because then people can come and you can say, I only need you, you know, an hour a month to do X, Y, Z, or whatever it is.
Well, that's the whole thing, is it's sort of like you go from, you know, position to position, you don't make a decision until afterwards. So it's sort of like, I don't have to commit to anything. You know, I can come and just sort of feel out the situation, and if I want to wait 6 months before I come back and do something else, then
Yeah.
that's fine too. So,
So what assets does the town have for recreation? Or does the town own the community center?
No.
So are all of those, Pierce Hall is a community, who,
We don't own
We
that.
don't own that
We
either.
don't own the
There's
softball field either on
Well, that's part of
Hansdale.
the community center.
so are those owned by nonprofits?
It is.
Small
The
nonprofits?
community center owns the community center building and then the ball field.
Right.
The community center owns the ball field.
Mhm.
And how do they stay alive financially, the community center?
Barrel,
Yeah,
barrel.
So-
and it's too bad because it's.
Because in many ways, they served the function of exactly what we're talking about.
I know.
Well, that's what I'm
On
trying
a
to.
much smaller scale, but, I mean, if you speak to people of a generation before, that was exactly what that served.
Because such a position could, make sure that the ball field was maintained, could even be potentially used
And
by
there
the
was,
school.
And the main building
the
there
one
used to be a
up
there?
basketball court. Scouting was held there.
Yeah.
A lot of other.
There is a daycare in there right now in the community
Is there?
center.
There is currently?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
They're
Um,
currently fundraising too, the community center. They
Yeah.
put letters out.
Yeah, you can buy a brick for $200 with your name on it, which would be really great. A lot of people,
Need a lot of bricks.
a lot of bricks, yeah.
So I don't know that answer of what their financial, what their books look like as to where they're getting their money from. I mean, I know a lot of the work that's been done that they just did was through grants and,
My understanding is it's really threadbare. I
yeah.
mean, they're kind of like going
It has
from
been for a long
crisis
time.
to crisis saying, oh, painting, okay. we
And
got
there are
it.
limitations to the building, there's parking issues there.
The electrical system is really bad, yeah.
All structural issues.
Which, just to remind you that the community supper is tomorrow night, and I'm cooking, so you should all be there.
So as far as other, really just, the fire station, we really don't have any other buildings and I mean, the town hall. I don't know, what are our other, the pool,
And Pierce Hall is,
It's a,
private.
something,
it's a
yeah.
private person
It's an
owns it?
association or something, I want to say.
Community Association.
Yeah.
It's tax exempt.
Isn't it kind of like a Grange, isn't it? I mean, that structure, it's separate.
It
but-
has been
Yeah.
functioned, it has functioned. I think it's an association, which I don't know exactly what that means. but-
Yeah, well, that would be sort of like a Grange. type,
Exactly,
yeah,
same concept, yeah.
Membership.
So,
I have a beautiful space above the town,
Yeah,
at the town hall, it just
Well,
needs
much
to be
nicer.
renovated.
The second floor of the firehouse as well.
yeah, no kidding.
okay.
Minecraft.
One of the kids, when I came to lunch one day here, said they wanted to have a museum with sea turtles up there.
With
Good
what?
idea.
I asked him if I could,
Museum with what?
sea turtles. Because I said, is there anything, if I could make anything for you guys right now, what
What's
was in
that
the
dripping
museum?
on my
I
desk?
said, what would you want in the museum? He said, sea turtles.
I'd want to see turtles.
I said, it could be a traveling museum, it changes every,
Right, they could come up to Connecticut and there'd be a bridge over to the town hall from the river.
skateboard park does it. I let them skate a little bit on the stairs at the town hall until I go out and, I let them do it maybe once or twice, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's not many stairs.
So how shall we move forward? Are we seeing if you can find some grants or?
I'll see what I can, if anybody else wants to do some searches, that would
I'll
be
do a
really good
little
too.
searching.
but, yeah.
And if you can identify budgetary items that might fit into that
Yeah.
slush fund that could pay something like that, I don't know whether there is. such
Let's not
thing or
call it
not.
a slush fund, let's call it, I heard
Inaugurate the school board.
I heard
Gary.
discretionary fund earlier, I don't even know what that is.
We don't have a slush fund.
No.
I'll have Laura, I couldn't find the folder with the things I was looking for, I'll have her at least copy the questionnaires, because we require a questionnaire be filled out every year before they can even be back on this list. So I'll have her at least do for the first 4, because
Okay.
that tells what they do, who they service, what their programs are, that kind of thing. in a more concise, manner than what their report is.
Yeah.
So I'll do that and I'll email it out to you and maybe you can forward it on.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the checking account, access to online?
Oh, yeah, well, sure, I mean, so it sounds like you guys have never really done the online banking thing, so this was all new.
Mhm.
And so, I just asked to, when that happens, just to be on it, so
Yeah.
that we can at least get a viewing privilege on the account.
So this is where I have been wanting to get online banking since I have been there.
Mhm.
Well, even back when I was just doing the finance stuff. So it's been 8, 9, I don't know how many years now. So there's a cost to that for us. I think it's like almost $800 a year to have it.
Really?
Wait, to have what?
To have the online banking
For the town of Putney?
for the town of Putney. Yeah.
Really?
Why, everybody else gets it for free?
No, it's a business account and
Huh.
Wow.
yeah, it's a cost per month for.
But would save a lot of time, potentially.
It would if the treasurer would use it. She'll never look at it. I mean, I'll be the one that uses it and, so I have been putting in the budget every year some money for that expense, but, she has to fill the paperwork out and sign it in order to do it. The other piece of it, which we were talking about before you guys got in here, is our computer system at the town hall is old. Has old software on it, our server does, and we have some XP machines, and recently I've been researching replacing everything, getting everything up to date, and have found out that our server and those XP machines are a security risk.
Yeah.
So before I have access or put online banking anywhere in the building, I need to get that addressed.
So how much is it worth to you?
Not that much.
About $12,000.
So, but for that checking account to go online isn't gonna cost $800.
No, it shouldn't.
So we just need to
You
request,
You have to have online banking capability, and then you ask for different levels of which accounts you want and which, who has the ability to look and what they have the ability to do.
so you're saying we do need that 800, that?
Yeah, we have to sign
Even-
up for online
Except
banking.
the supervisory union might have that and you.
I'm sure that the supervisory union has online banking.
Right, exactly. So you might just have access to it through them or something.
They might not have to pay a fee,
Well-
they may
So I'm
have a
very
reduced
confused.
interest rate on something.
Yeah, me too.
So can
Me
you-
too.
So talk to us about those accounts. So then, the general fund,
You're talking the school accounts.
so there are 2 school accounts?
I don't know anything about the school funds. I do nothing with the school. The treasurer is the only one that does anything with the school accounts at the town office. I do nothing with it, never have.
The transfers always come out of the general fund though, don't they? As far
Well,
as
when we
I
pay
know,
taxes,
that it
yeah.
comes out of the general fund,
Yeah.
right? So that's probably,
What general fund? Your
The
general
town
fund?
general fund. We collect the taxes and on whatever the schedule is.
And they get transferred into the other general fund?
We write a check and then she deposits it into the
Into the
people's account school general fund.
Okay.
But I don't have access to any of that information.
So that's separate. That would be a different business. That would be different from your $800 program.
Well, if Anita is signing up for online banking for the accounts that she holds as the signatory person, then they would give us access. She would have to sign up for that separate.
Okay.
And maybe you're right, I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be the $800, I don't know.
But if she's depositing a check into our general fund, then
Is-
maybe our general fund is what we need for a separate.
right.
So
As soon as
does
it's-
the-
as soon as it's in-
So does the supervisory union right now have access to online banking to the Putney Central Schools General Fund?
I don't know. I tend to doubt it,
I didn't do it too.
but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
But they could print checks on the school lunch.
they can print checks based on that account number, but beyond that, I'm not sure.
Is that account that you guys are looking to have access to, is that a new account because of this food service program, or no, it's been there?
It's been there,
Okay.
but we don't have an understanding of how money has flowed
Right.
through that.
This might be a good Frank question.
Okay. It might be a Frank, I need
Yeah.
to sit down.
So maybe what it is that he just needs to get, so you're right, there are two separate, I was thinking that the two were the same, but if the supervisory union already has online banking, and if she gives them permission, and she signs up through there, then it may be part of their,
I think I'd better ask Frank.
yeah.
Sounds like nobody knows.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with the school checking accounts or any of that. I don't even look at the bank statements. I never have. I mean, I think the ultimate goal would be for the supervisory union just to take that all over.
So how would that happen?
I don't know the answer to that. She would have to relinquish that.
So this is, so Anita would
Yeah.
have to relinquish it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it may be statutory that it says
Right,
that
I'm
it's
not sure.
that it falls within the town treasurer's.
Yeah.
Well, when I was
Purview, but
treasurer
I
in
don't- I don't
Westminster, the supervisory union did everything. All I did was sign the checks.
Right.
I did none of the bookkeeping, it was just, so I think the statutory portion of it is that she, as treasurer,
Has to
she's
sign the
ordered to pay
Right.
these bills.
So that's what we need to know, and then,
They did the deposits, they did everything.
because it may be that Anita would be comfortable giving that up if she knew that it was being managed appropriately by like the supervisory union. I don't know.
I don't know if she's
Um,
ever been really asked.
That's what I'm
Yeah, I don't
wondering.
know.
She
Maybe she
she
has.
may think and assume that, and appropriately, because it's the way she's always done it, that this is how it works and that's what she's responsible for. She might be just as happy to have somebody else do it if that is legal and above board, which presumably from what Cynthia is.
And
saying,
I don't
sounds
know
like it
if
probably
she's
is.
not, I don't know if because her term is up in 2017. I don't know, I'm assuming that on the ballot, it must read that,
We could change that.
well, yeah, I don't know, it must be voted together on the ballot, treasurer of town and school district, but maybe it could be separated, I don't know
Yeah.
at that time, but that's 2017,
But it might also, again, just be a signatory thing as far as that's concerned.
yeah.
Not have to have oversight of it, or have oversight but not have to do the daily functions of it.
It's only a year and a half away. anyway.
So, yeah, I guess you should have maybe that
Oh,
would
that's
be the,
fine.
yeah.
From our side of things, what?
The easiest route.
Because even if we
is-
did sign up for online banking, it would be two separate signups because it would be the school district tax ID number and the town tax ID number. They're two separate things.
Yes.
Right. And I think I wasn't thinking of it that way.
And basically, as soon as it went from our general fund to your general fund, then it's your
Yeah.
thing, not ours, so.
And with Act 46, there's only going to be one tax ID for
Right.
the entire
For the
SU,
district.
so we would be giving up our tax ID.
Hmm.
Well, good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys gonna keep meeting or?
I don't know.
We got just a
Okay, can we
tiny bit to finish up.
have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, good.
So they don't forget.
No, I forgot it. So can you guys stop at the office and sign warrants? Can you do?
Yeah.
I have to get a check out.
How long are you in there till?
The only other thing I wanted to mention tonight as part of the budget discussion, because I gave you a new budget status report, is, I once again am really concerned with the listers' hours that are being worked. There's been an average of 26 hours a week being worked by the head lister, which is paid a little bit more than the other ones. The other ones have been an average of 6 hours.
Per week?
Yeah. I mean, they've been in a lot recently because of the BCA stuff.
Right.
I think that will die down a little bit, but our budget is based off of 26 hours a week.
26 total.
Yeah. And I am concerned with, I don't sign the timesheets, and I want to make it clear that I don't sign the timesheets because I cannot verify whether the hours.
Right.
So I don't know
And
what,
there's nothing we can really do about this.
Other than-
You're just voicing it.
I'm voicing it. I mean, there's a point where we can say we're only paying 26 hours a week,
Which
figure
is
it out.
really what
Right,
we
I
should
mean,
probably
that
do.
is the only letter.
And I have to say that one of the things that is happening is that there is a sense of frustration between the staff, that we are very tight pinching our hours and making sure we're within our wage budget. If Laura works over, she has to take comp time, she doesn't get paid more. The other girls in the other office work the hours that they're, you know. And so when they see someone getting paid more hours than what we had budgeted for, and we're picking through the budget to try to pay for computers and 500 here and 1,000 here, and, you know, to try to keep our budget where it's extremely frustrating.
So what do we have to do in order to say,
I think
this is just what it is?
Yeah, I think maybe we have, I guess you call the listers in to a select board meeting and let them know, it's 26 hours a week. That's what the budget says.
I mean, do we really need to call them into a meeting to do that?
No, I
Or
can
do we
tell them.
just- Yeah, I think we just,
Yeah, I mean, if you would like to support and.
I would like the
and backing
support,
us up,
because I know.
yeah, no, I'm not saying we're not behind it,
By all
but
means, call them into a meeting, you know, and.
I mean, they can come if they're
Right.
upset with it, but I
Exactly.
just, the budget is what the budget is, and every other employee in the town has to stay within the wage budget.
so why don't you send whatever message you need to
Okay.
that effect in
Well,
order to make that
Or
perfectly
paid hours,
clear?
so that if somebody wants to come in. and-
Absolutely, yeah, they're welcome
Put an
to.
extra half hour or something in that, but sorry, but this is what
This
there
is,
is.
this is what we will be.
Exactly, this is what, you
Yeah.
know.
How many hours are they averaging now per week? Do we?
Well,
You said
20
that's what I was-
The head lister is 26. Yeah, I mean, I did a wage.
Oh, so that's an average since.
Is that
the
12
beginning
hours?
of the
Since the
fiscal year?
beginning of the
other two
fiscal year.
listers, or 12
So-
hours total?
Total, between all three, there's been an average of 32 hours a week.
Yeah, so that came
So
in.
that's,
And like I said, I know the other two listers have been in a lot recently because of the BCA stuff that's going on, which is understandable.
Right, that happens, yeah.
But if you take theirs out, it's 26 hours a week is the average that,
I mean, and I think most of our discussions about how this is supposed to function is that essentially the head lister should be roughly a 20-hour a week
it was
job.
20, I think it was 22,
22.
2 and 2 is the
Yeah.
way we allocated it in the budget.
Okay, so why don't you make sure that's clear also? And then, you know, if there's blowback from that, then
Yeah.
they can come talk to us.
The other thing that I do want to do is I do want to get the two new listers some training.
Absolutely.
I will get an estimate on what that would be, and I will also figure out the number of hours so, I mean, I think just like everybody else, when we're going over budget on stuff, we have to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we do, that's what all of us are
Yeah.
expected to do, and,
No, and we can't expect the two new listers, new-ish listers,
Yeah.
to, you know, I mean, if they're gonna do training, et cetera. then
Right, that's different.
Then that's what it is. And we also can't expect them to be able to come up to speed without spending some time.
right, and I
So
totally
I
get
guess
that.
my general sense would be, it's the job of the head lister to
Manage that,
manage that so that they're staying within their budget and yet getting the exposure they need.
okay, so I will draft something and put it in writing and, put it out there. So other than that, the budget is, you know, we're all on track to where we should be. nothing too
Yeah,
drastic going on.
in whatever you draft, you might wanna point, I didn't look at, where is the lister's budget, what percent are they? I mean,
It's not, let's see.
I mean, if you, it might be worth in whatever letter you do.
We're at 28%, which is not terrible. It's just, so we're what, how far through?
July, August, September, about
Right.
about a
So it's,
quarter.
So it's a little over a quarter.
So I would just
Yeah.
point, I would just point that out, I would, you know,
It's just-
sort of
it's just- this
give the
is-
math
yeah.
to back up what.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
You're
this is the discussion we've been having for 2 years.
And it's the
And
trend
every year we
time.
end up over budget. And when I'm starting to talk to other people about their salaries and about the number of hours they're putting in, and I'm telling them they have to, and we're moving money to cover a raise for somebody.
Right,
And there's no oversight in that one.
yeah,
It not only creates animosity between the employees, it's not responsible.
yeah,
So,
no. there's no-
we all
there's-
understand there are circumstances beyond our control that may require more time, I get that.
Right,
But at a certain point, you have to ask permission.
Mhm.
You have to,
yeah, and or manage your time differently.
yeah,
I mean, you just have to say, okay, these are the things I'm gonna deal with, because I have to,
yeah.
and these are the things I'm not gonna deal with until there's money in the budget.
Mhm.
So I will let them know
Okay.
that.
Right, anything else? Next meeting date is October 21st, which I assume is a Wednesday.
It is, I'm gonna try really hard
Okay.
to not have them play a field hockey
I
game
was
that
gonna
night.
say,
Playoffs are coming.
I know, so is this the one that
Yeah,
you wanted to change?
yeah,
Yes.
Oh.
So we had- yeah.
For some reason, I thought that was a later one. So this worked out well for you?
it worked out well for me, and it also worked out well because they wanted to join
Yeah,
me.
no, I know, that's what I mean.
Two
It
birds
worked
with one
out,
stone.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for
So
some
when
reason,
I ask
I thought
again-
that one.
I don't know, we'll see. But no, other than that, I think I'm set.
Okay,
Good.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.